I'm going to hit the record button. We're live, gentlemen. Once
Good.
again, this is group 3. This is part 2 of our meeting. We have determined thus far that 1 hour or 40 minutes is not enough time to complete all the steps according to our expertise. I have a assessment specialist, Mr. Taylor here, who is commenting on the amount of work it takes just to complete steps 2 and 3. Mr. Taylor, please explain.
All right, here's the deal. We have an evaluation protocol of 7 items, the first of which is to say whether something was aligned to the standards. Okay, that's not it. There it is, dimension, right? Now, supposedly, we were to do this during data meeting number 2, but there are 20 artifacts divided between the 3 of us. 20 artifacts times 7 items to look at. All right, I'm not even going to look at the levels 1 through 4. Let's just take 7 items to evaluate 20 different artifacts. So 7 times 20 equals 140 considerations to be covered in 10 minutes. That's not possible. So
just to make sure you understand what he's talking about, step 2 says that we're supposed to, as a team, discuss and evaluate each instructional activity. We get 20 minutes, 25 minutes maximum to stay within the time, considering the alignment, the impact, and the depth. Alignment, impact, and depth. Here, impact
in 25 minutes?
Depth. So that was a suggestion that we reduce. That's still a lot. That's still 3
it's
domains
5 minutes. It's
per,
5 minutes per item.
Yeah. So that's still 3 domains per item, per artifact.
That's not right. That can't be right.
So it says right here, step 2, the ones that I pulled: alignment, impact, and depth. 3. To focus on 3: the alignment, the impact, and the depth.
Ah, okay.
So that's still 3 domains per 20 items. Just assuming that,
okay, that's 60.
Yeah.
So it's about 2 minutes per item.
Yeah.
Per artifact, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And and 2 of us, I guess we were supposed to do this quietly. I don't understand that. But
so step 1, it said we review the instructional materials quietly and individually, and then each component gets reviewed by at least 2 teachers, which means that I would take, let's say, I would take, say, this artifact of the student's work.
Yeah.
And I would look at it and I would score it, saying that it was aligned, saying that it had a high impact on learning, or had a high impact as far as the gap was concerned to be observed, and then make the comment about what to do to suggest it by step 3.
But then, James, we as a group are supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Not just you. Not just you.
Yeah.
James is supposed to look at it and say, is it aligned? Is it this? Is it that? I'm supposed to do the same thing for all 20 of them. So that's 60 considerations in 25 minutes. So we couldn't do that because the whole meeting could only take 40 minutes. Well, even if it's just an hour, to cover the entire data meeting number 2.
Okay, so just to make sure we are in step 3, We're
Yeah,
suggesting improvements in light of ratings of lesson components discussed in step 2.
right.
Members of the PLC, that's us, may suggest improvements for any part of any lesson. So here's my first suggestion.
Which lesson are we talking about? Are we talking about the artifacts, or are we talking about this particular exercise we were given by the university?
I say we take the artifacts and we apply them to the first week of lessons. Let's pretend that our artifacts refer to the first week of lessons, the first 5 lessons and first objective. The reason for that is I think that if we focused on that week, we would be able to have a more success in data meeting number 3 and 4 when we have to create an action plan. So kind of a nip the problem in the.
Could you say that again?
Okay, so you asked, are we applying the suggestions for improvement to the lesson, to the data that was given in the class, or the artifacts that we collected? Here's my response.
Okay.
I suggest that we focus on improving the lesson from the perspective of the first 5 weeks, the first objective. So each of our data sheets had objective number 1, right? We focus as our lesson. We focus on applying improvements to that set of lessons using the artifacts. I'll give you an example. So my first objective was, I know it's here somewhere. My first objective was
just one adjustment, James. God damn.
There it is.
Foster, is goal objectives number 1 is only 2 weeks long. It's not 6, not 5, 2.
No.
Because the entire thing is six weeks. So each one of those is 2.
So this is 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Just so you know.
Cool. I say we each pick this part, this first one, goal objective number 1. We look at our artifacts. We look at these scores through the lens of our artifacts, and then we suggest improvements of how we could have made these scores better. Because we can all see that the scores decline across the board. Okay. The averages are low except for a few students who stood out. So let's take each of our artifacts. Let's focus on that week and talk about how we could have improved these data sets.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Keeping in mind that my particular set of goals and objectives result in 3 different products. Each 2 weeks, at the end of each 2 weeks, there's a product developed. Excel sheet, a storyboard, and a multimedia presentation.
Okay.
So you're suggesting, which is fine with me, is to take this first goal and objectives, in my case, the Excel sheet, which is in your wheelhouse, right? And I look at that and I say, okay, the scores aren't bad. How could I improve those scores? Right? Yes?
Yes.
And then I don't know when we do 2 and 3, but okay, when does that due? When is that improvement thingy due?
Now. That's step 3. We are suggesting improvements. For example, what is another way we might have taught area model? Here, the teaching method is an algorithm. What is another way we could have taught area model? That would be my focus that would be my question to the group as far as that's concerned. Then you would bring up your storyboard sequence and say, okay, here's the artifact, here are the scores. How might we have what might happen if we included this piece of technology or that piece of technology?
Okay. All right.
And James, whatever artifact that you had for that first set of data, that objective number 1, whatever that is, you pull out your artifact and you say something to the was what other approaches would work to improve behaviors for this piece, or what is the purpose of having students, not talking to each other, or only partnering up with one other person, or what's the purpose of the teacher picking the groups? You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Somewhat.
So, I'm sorry, James, go ahead.
No, somewhat. I'm getting somewhat, but you go ahead. See what you. I'm catching on slowly, but
Okay.
I don't do.
Well,
Is this going in? Is this just in the meeting, or does this have to be written down? And
this is the meeting.
oh, okay,
Yeah, this is the
all
meeting.
right.
This is happening
And
right
then-
now, real time.
And then you're going to summarize this into the presentation, correct, Foster?
That's correct.
Okay. So to improve your first set of goals and objectives, what did you just say? Try
Okay.
to keep it brief.
Objective goal number 1, students use base 10 blocks and place value to represent numbers in standard form, word form, and expanded
Okay.
form with greater than 80% accuracy.
Okay, cool.
All right. So my first suggestion, how might what's another way we might have shown these numbers in place? Because clearly they did it in place value, but they didn't use base 10 blocks to do it. They could have used drawing. They could have used actual base 10 blocks or some other manipulative that represented base 10 blocks, even if it was strips of paper and crumpled up balls of paper, to show a group of 50 plus a group of 3.
Okay. So for mine, since it's an Excel sheet, right? They did well, generally speaking. They were all pretty good. But to improve on that, I would probably want a pre-assessment of the actual math function, such as sum, to come to a sum of the averages, right? To see if my students could do that, because the Excel sheet does it for them. All I have to do is hit sum, and it gives it to them.
So
So
I'm sorry, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
that's okay. Go ahead.
Here's what I'm hearing. The
Yeah.
data sheet here does not have pre-assessment data. It has data
True.
from week 1, week 2, or lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 5, but there is a summative assessment at the end where there's an average.
Mm-hmm.
There's no category for a pre-assessment. So
would that be an improvement?
that would be an improvement.
Great. So we need a pre-assessment. It seems to me always, that when you're presenting content, new content, you do a pre-assessment to see where they are. And like one teacher I was working with today, she did a pre-assessment of her own of where her students were when they first came into her classroom at the beginning of the school year. Because that's her baseline. Because she can compare that to the end of the year and say, how much did they progress? How much did they grow? She did a pre-assessment. Always knowing what your baseline is seems to me to be a critical thing, right?
Agreed.
So that's an improvement.
That's true.
That's an improvement.
Right?
James, what you got? What do you think?
I would think with yours, that it should. Could you pull that back up again? I wasn't looking at your sheet up under there.
There's that. There's the student artifact.
Yeah, this
there's
one
the
right
data.
here.
There's
Okay, you're
student artifact,
saying
the data.
okay, this was done in a 5-week study, and it came out to be their averages right on the end of it after the 5 weeks.
Keeping in mind it's really 2.
Okay. So how do you know what the curriculum was going on in the classroom at that time?
Elaborate.
From the rubric?
I don't understand the question. What do you mean?
Okay, and those the goals were objectives in the 5 weeks, and you had to get the 80% accuracy is grade formed or anything like that. But how do you know the situations of the when the tests were taken?
I don't know.
Because like okay, in my situation, it's according to what time of day. It's according to what time, is it before lunch or after lunch? Test score is different because I work with special ed. If they have anything else on their mind except for what they're doing at that exact time, test scores will be different. If they're thinking about eating lunch, they're not thinking about that test. If they're hungry, I mean, if they're full and sitting back, they're not going to think
Yeah,
about that test. So it's
that's
according in my situation, it's according to what time or what time of day the tests are being created, I mean being done or given to the students to get a like a decent score, at least with special ed. That's what I'm
Mhm.
just saying.
so you're looking for an optimum time, right?
Right. That's a good way of putting it. Yes.
Okay,
Decent way.
so Foster, we can take James's suggestion and say, what is the best optimum time for students to do this?
Okay.
Yes? No?
Okay. Well, if it's a school-wide assessment, I can agree with him. If it's a departmentalized assessment, saying like math or reading or
Yeah,
science,
yeah,
you might not have control over that
yeah.
unless you
And
make it.
I was thinking more of it if it was a classroom type thing
as
because
a
I
formative assessment,
okay.
what do you think?
So I
Do
could,
this,
I would say that there's definitely a more optimal time within the class period,
yeah,
Right.
regardless of what time in the day to test. You don't want to test kids at the end of a class. If
yeah.
you're doing a test, you don't want to, teach them, drill them, and then be like, all right, guys, now we're going to do a test. What is the best time per class period to give a
Hmm.
test?
Good.
Math class is first in the day, science is second in the day after lunch. What time in that specific class period, according to the teacher and according to the data,
So put that down. There
is
you go.
best to is
What's the
best
best optimum time?
to teach these to test these kids. And
Yeah.
just for my personal reference, I should be aligning this artifact with goal objective number 2, not 1. So I
Okay.
just want to put that caveat in there upon further reflection. All right,
Okay.
so we got through step 3. We have successfully suggested improvements in light of the components discussed in step 2
Of yours.
of mine.
Yeah.
But we also with James talked about how his
Good.
scores reflected the time in which the teacher chose to test the kids, if I'm
Okay.
understanding it correctly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's mine
Okay.
when you do the summary. Here's mine when you do the summary.
Okay.
In my pre-assessment for number 1,
Mm-hmm.
okay, did the students have adequate background knowledge
Okay.
for this Excel sheet?
Okay.
And that would tell me which students had the adequate background knowledge and who didn't. Like the high flyer, number 19, he probably has all the background knowledge he needs to do that exercise. But then you have, what is it, student number 24 or something?
Hold on, let me pull it up.
He's way down the list, right? In that first one, look at him. Look at that poor kid.
Footballs.
Look at that poor
Footballs.
kid. 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, right? So he has inadequate background knowledge. So I would want to do a pre-assessment of those students to know where they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would improve, I think, some of those scores,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
So there's that. You can summarize that sucker.
Okay. So what might happen if we gave the pre-assessments? What might happen if we gave this pre-test, we determined an optimum time to give the test,
Yeah.
and we had the activities aligned? What would happen? James?
Hmm. Hmm.
We're
What
looking,
happens?
yeah, we're looking for a suggestion. What would you say would be a suggestion?
Well,
Or
the lesson about the time,
yeah,
it might figure out why the students did well or they didn't do well. And then you could, like get it all together and make your assessment from that by just going by each week and each time that the tests were given.
By the way, for
Mm.
both of you, there's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, where the guy documents the fact that time of day and mood of the person taking the test will affect how well they do it.
Oh, okay.
The
Wow.
mood and time of day. So
Hmm.
James is actually pinging on that pretty well.
Okay.
There
I-
is research to show that.
I believe it. No, I believe it. I remember when I had to take the praxis.
Mm.
You can't tell me
I-
the time of day didn't play a factor because it was early in the morning.
And your mood.
Yeah, that's
What
true.
if you had an argument with your wife just before you got there? You would not do as well.
Hmm. Nerves and
Okay.
jitters.
Good point, James. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank
Great job.
you.
All right. Step 4,
Mm,
because we're coming up on time. Step 4 is the follow-up. PLC members decide which components they will implement and who on the team is responsible for which tasks associated with implementation.
implementation where and with who?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's what I was getting ready to ask.
remember that this is hypothetical. I'm
Right.
assuming because after this we have to
It's
make
got to be hypothetical.
yeah, we have to create an action plan. All right, so just keep that in mind. So let's see. Which components will we implement and who on the team is responsible for which tasks? I think task number 1, we can all agree, is to come up with a procedure for pre-assessment.
Right.
Right.
I
Okay.
think
That's
that's the first thing
yeah, that's the
that
main thing. Yeah.
we should implement.
Yep.
Right. I agree on that.
Okay. And seeing how we all agree that student artifacts are a very big, very significant, very big, very prominent,
Yep.
I think the next component we should implement is to create what's the term? Common assessments. Common assessments. Let's make sure.
Hold on. Students demonstrate their understanding through products, not just through tests.
But you said as a point that they should have formative assessment. They don't have to be summative. They don't have to be
Okay.
it doesn't have to be like a test, but
Okay.
whatever product they create, that's a formative assessment. Like that
Okay.
score for number 1, student number 1 out of 8 shows their level of expertise, just like that score of 0 for students 23 and 24 shows deficiency.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. I agree.
So
Thank you for clarifying that.
no,
Yeah, that's
my
a good
pleasure.
one.
Thank you for bringing up the
Mm.
point. So if we're creating a pre-assessment,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and we agree that that's going to be something that we implement,
Mm-hmm.
when
do you want to do the formative one?
I'm not sure. Again, this is like hypothetical. So I'm trying to think like if we're actually in the room and we've got these dates and these crunch lines ahead of us. We know we want to do a pre-assessment. We agree.
Right.
Um,
Boom. We do that
we
week
know
1, day 1.
well, not just week 1. I think we should do a pre-assessment for each
Oh,
for each
okay.
objective.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
for one of my objectives, not to cut you off, Bruce, but for
Yeah,
one
go
of my
ahead.
objectives is the behavior. So the best thing that I could think of for the behavior thing, we'd have to get like a psychiatrist or something to go over why their behavior is like it is.
Do your
Because
students
it's a
have
lot of
IEPs?
factors to come into like that.
Do you
Or
do
or
Yeah.
we teach a procedure that helps students. We teach a procedure that students can use to regulate behavior. For example, turn and talk, think, pair, share, accountable talk. These are all procedures that we're supposed to be teaching our kids that are supposed to help them to regulate their behavior in class, so that they're using active listening, so that they're participating in discussions, so that they are
Okay.
learning peripherally from their peers.
Does that work for you, James?
Yeah, that does. That does. Yes, that
So
helps out
what
a lot.
so what procedures would you put in place, James, as the expert on behavior in the group? What procedures would you put in place? What would you teach students to do in the classroom so that they're focused, they're actively participating, and they are engaged in the content?
Do we
Well,
really
what
have
we
to do
do
that?
now, what we do now is to try to keep them on course. We'll give them not a timeout, but we make them sit down and count to 10 and then sit back and realize what is making them do what they do. And then they tell us, because we take them off individually. If they're acting up and not doing what they're supposed to do, we'll take them off individually to the back of the class and we'll talk to them. We'll ask them different questions like, why are you doing this? Uh, Take 5 minutes, breathe. Is the
So you
curriculum
want,
is this too hard for you? Are you not understanding it? That's why you're
so you're
acting
asking,
up.
so you're asking the student to reflect.
Right. There you go. Yes.
All right.
And give, for individual to understand why
Okay.
to help him, we have to understand why he's doing that.
Right.
And
So,
if he got a reason for doing that, that's the quickest way to
right.
find out.
Is there any way that we could make that process asynchronous? Because from what I'm hearing is in the middle of instruction, if someone is losing focus and they start to misbehave as a way of
Getting
indirectly
attention.
lashing out, I'm the
Hmm.
teacher gonna stop teaching 25 students, pull my dude or my girl to the back and
Well,
have them
see,
reflect.
that's
Is
in
there a
my
way to
class, the teacher, wait, in my class, the teacher's ahead, and I'll be the one that would pull them up and take them to the back of the class. The teacher would keep on going.
okay, so
That's for a teacher's assistant to do.
okay. So I don't have a
So,
teacher's assistant. So
right.
that works great in your class. My suggestion would be let's
Mhm.
create a component where there's a procedure for a paraprofessional to work with that student, but also a way for the student to do that asynchronously or with a peer. Because otherwise, in my case, like
Okay.
there's no paraprofessional, I'm gonna have to do it. And that slows down instruction, which destroys pacing, which will, like Bruce said, negatively affect the motivation of the class and affect the scores in a negative way.
However, I don't think we have to be that specific to say there needs to be a point at which the student is asked to reflect on their behavior. When that happens, who does it? Blah, blah, blah. That's okay. That can be filled in by whoever needs to do it, the way they can do it. But I think it's enough to just say one of the improvements is to build in a reflective protocol, reflective something for the student
Agreed.
or
We're down to
plural.
9 minutes.
And that's all you have to say.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Good
Uh,
time.
all right. Well, gentlemen, that concludes our data meeting number 2.
Okay.
That's it. All that's left is the debrief, which is a reflection on, I guess what we've done so far. So what we've done is go through each of our artifacts. We've talked about which ones we want to ex-nay from the common artifact, which is going to be put into the presentation. We've talked about their scores. We then went back and looked at how we could improve components, improve the artifacts. And we also suggested components to implement moving forward. So it says we're supposed to talk about who's responsible for what in this hypothetical scenario. I think Bruce should be in charge of the pre-assessment.
Okay.
in
Do a
partnership
rubric for the pre-assessment.
with at least one of us to back him up, or each of us, because we could, since we're using multiple subjects, my
Mhm.
pre-assessment for mathematics should look different from James's pre-assessment for reading. So
Right.
Bruce would hypothetically partner with me to create a pre-assessment for each objective. Then
Okay.
Bruce would hypothetically partner with James to do the same thing, creating pre-assessments for those 3 objectives and procedures for behavior.
Okay, and for my own.
And
So
for his own.
when do you want this?
I don't know. It's hypothetical. That's why I kept saying hypothetical and doing the air quotes with my fingers, because I don't know if we're actually supposed to do this
I thought this was a lesson.
or
Okay,
move
that's a
forward.
good point.
Because the
So
next meeting is action plan, I think. I wrote
okay,
it.
so hypothetically, I did it. Okay,
Me too.
hypothetically, we did it.
All right.
We're done.
Congratulations.
Right? Goodness
So if
gracious.
I had to do it, I could do it.
If I could pull it up. There it is, chapter 3. Data meeting 3, determining gaps and goals. Sift through the teacher's artifacts, see what's happening with student learning. Team exploratory question drives the meeting. Let me make this bigger. I apologize. Triangulation.
Where did you get
is
this
like,
from? Where
I told you, I
is it?
read chapters 2, 3, and 4.
He's gone ahead, James.
I read chapters 2, 3, and 4 and took notes. These are what my notes look like when I read a book and I read a textbook and then take notes. These are what my notes
You
look
are
like.
good, dude.
I
These
do
are what
the
my notes
same
look
thing.
like.
Take damn good notes. Good.
Kids, do not repeat this language if you are watching this video.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Oh, right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it says identify instructional gaps, link learning gaps to instructional gaps. That's where I got the circles of influence from, because I was trying to connect the rubric that, bless you, I was trying to connect the rubric that we had for data meeting 2 to this. I'm assuming it's some kind of guide for
Can you
data
send
meeting
that?
number 3.
Can you send that to us?
Yeah, I can show you all my notes.
Yeah, please.
Mhm.
Why
You
not?
ain't happen to take any notes for data meeting 4 yet, have you?
No, don't go that far.
I read chapter 4.
Yeah, but send us this. Send us
Yeah,
this.
that'd be
It's
excellent.
it's all one document, yo.
I mean, we're here. We're
It's
okay.
all one document. Hold
Well, send it to us so we can,
on.
look at it.
Miss Taylor.
Mm.
I'll let y'all view it.
Because we're all working together, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Cool.
Rising tides raise all ships.
You got it.
Feel free to copy and
Revise as
adjust.
necessary. Yeah.
Yep.
For us individually.
It's too many
Right.
S's. Yep.
Good.
So y'all will be able to see it. Boom, there it is.
You did a lot of good work, Foster. Thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Mhm.
Hey, and that's it. For real. Okay, so we've got our hypothetical assignments, or maybe they're not hypothetical. I don't know. Maybe that's a question we need to ask Dr. Dove. And this is the conclusion of data meeting 2.
Yes, Dr. Rippard, not Dove.
Oh, excuse me, Dr. Rippard.
That's
I apologize.
That's all
I
right.
get my doctors
I know.
mixed up.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay, do we one question quick. Do we have to do the blog sheet tonight, or we can wait or do we have till
Tuesday.
Tuesday to do it?
so it
Tuesday?
says
Okay.
we agreed that we would post our artifact tracking sheets to blogs by
Right.
tomorrow.
Okay.
That's on our action
okay.
items. Then I'm supposed to complete the multimedia summary by tomorrow as well. So I'm going to probably post. We agreed that we will post our individual unchanged artifact tracking sheets to our blog.
Okay.
We then said we would create a common blog. So we can, if y'all are willing to meet one more time, I can create a Google Doc and we can knock that out together to make sure everybody's on the same page, and that'll be our
Okay.
last meeting for today.
All right.
Go our separate ways, get some dinner. Because I know
Have a good rest, you guys.
All right. So I'm going, oh, sorry, I didn't go through the action items. After the summary posted tomorrow, we have our follow-up meeting before submitting the summary. So I have it completed. I share it with you guys, which I've already done. The link is in this rolling agenda. We can pull it up tomorrow at 7. Bing, bang, boom, go through it, change this, keep that, blah, blah.
Good, good.
Post it. And then by the 25th, we have our reflective blog postings. And
Yeah.
our next meeting is on the 28th.
It is?
Yeah, prepare for
Oh, the
data
prepare,
meeting number,
not the actual thing.
No, not the actual meeting.
Woo!
The data meeting number 3 is not the 28th. We are preparing.
All right.
Okay.
Because
Preparing
you're sending us your notes,
for
which
yes.
we're gonna revise and personalize.
Yeah, it's there. Y'all got them already.
Okay, cool.
Prepare
I'm
for
with you. I'm with you.
data meeting, not actually meeting to complete.
Okay,
Number 3.
good.
All right.
Okay,
So that's that. All right,
thank you
gentlemen.
all.
All right.
I'm gonna I'm gonna create the Google Doc. I'll do a Google Meet, just send it to y'all that way so we don't go on to Zoom. I'll see y'all in a minute and 20 seconds so that
Okay.
the meeting so that the video can create. I'm stopping
Okay.
my share.
Bye.
Peace.
All righty. Have a good